street at Bundy, embracing someone. And that Tom Lang, as he stood there on the street, also saw a man standing some distance behind them, a man who appeared angry, a man standing there with his hands clenched, looking at Nicole and this other person, the person she was embracing. It's right there in the transcript at page 12,255. Where is that person? We already talked about Dr. Lenore Walker. Where's Dr. Walker? He told you Al Cowlings would testify. Where's AC? He told you that the defendant was out chipping golf balls. He told you Paula Barbieri was going to come in and testify about her relationship with the defendant. We didn't get Paula Barbieri. What do we get in terms of her relationship with the defendant? We got other people on the peripheral. The stuff you needed to hear to raise a reasonable doubt, and you're reasonable people. Never got presented in this case. It never got presented. What you got was a lot of smoke. You got people like Gertie's telling you that the crime lab isn't, can't be relied on. But then the substrate controls are all clean. You got guys like Professor McDonald out doing glove experiments where he's taking his own blood and then he's putting it on a new pair of Eris gloves and he's rubbing it around like this to see if they shrink. When you look at the defense in this case, you'll see that it really isn't helpful at all. It's all smoke. It really is all smoke. And you're going to have to be careful when you deal with that defense evidence. Now, some of it was pretty good, though. I mean, the stuff they did to Furman was textbook stuff from a legal perspective. But even that, you have to look and say, well, what does it do for us? It upsets us. But then you have to look at all the evidence and see how it's helpful, if it's helpful at all. They called demeanor witnesses, and witnesses to testify to the defendant's demeanor after the murders. And Marshall Clark talked to you about that. Murderers don't walk around with neon signs saying, I just killed somebody. When people do things, commit crimes like this one, especially a rage killing like this one, he will calm down. They will calm down. And they want to get away with it. He wanted to get away with it. So he certainly isn't going to do anything that's going to draw attention to himself. But they showed you these photographs. They showed you photographs of the defendant and some women at an event the night before the murders. Remember that? Because they had Carol Connor, the woman with the keyboard vest, come in and testify about the event the night before. Remember she told you that she witnessed an exquisite romantic moment between the defendant and Paula Barbieri? Well, what does that do for you? How does that help you resolve this case? It doesn't help at all, especially when you consider the fact that he and Paula had a disagreement, for lack of a better term, over his refusal to let her go to the recital the next day. But beyond that, it's a picture. He's at this big fancy event and somebody says, will you please pose with us for a picture? Well, when somebody takes your picture, what's the first thing they say? Cheese. What point is it? What good is it? What value is it in a picture like that when somebody's posing for you? And even in that video after the recital, he sees the video camera, he looks right toward it. Posed for pictures are worthless. And they call that guy McKay. Remember Mr. McKay who worked for the AARP? Was it the AARP? Or the American Association of Psychologists or something like that in Chicago. And there was a golfing event, and the defendant came to the event as the spokesperson for Hertz. And Mr. McKay and the defendant and two other gentlemen took a picture together. They're posing for a picture. Not only are they posing for a picture, the defendant is basically at work. He's a spokesperson for Hearst. It's his job to go out and play golf with these people. So how does that help you? There is nothing in the record that establishes for you and I guess Dr. Walker could have done this. Whether or not, murderers have neon signs over their heads that indicate they're a murderer. How do you know? How do you know? Well, whenever you watch TV, you watch the news and some brutal killing happens and it's the neighbor. The neighbor did it. And they always interview the neighbors of the neighbor who did the murders and the reporters always say, how was he? How did he act? What kind of guy was he? Oh, he was a nice guy. They always say that. You don't know. You can't tell. The testimony you heard about demeanor on the airplane and at the airport, it was a waste of your time, really. But if you want to attach some significance to it, you go ahead. It's up to you. You're the jury. The only demeanor really that's important is his demeanor that night. After he got into that Bronco and headed toward 875 South Bundy. But this defense that they've put on in this case, it's what we in the profession call a shotgun defense. And it's a defense as old as the law. Way back in the day, way back in the day, even back when I was in law school. Old lawyers and old law professors shared with us the old school approach to a criminal defense case. And every lawyer knows this case. You're a criminal defense attorney and you have a tough case. This is what you do. You argue the law. And if the law is against you, you argue the facts. And if the facts are against you, you raise hell and blame somebody else. When the facts and the law are against you, blame the police. Blame the prosecution. Point the finger elsewhere. Create a smoke screen. And that's what they've done in this case, ladies and gentlemen. Smoke and mirrors. That's it. That's what you've got. They put on those timeline witnesses. Remember Ellen Aronson and Danny Mandel? Judy T. Lander. Pilnack. Remember Pilnack? Was she the woman that had 2 watches? If you haven't learned anything else about this case, I'm sure that you've learned that there are people who are banging at the door to get in on this case. Those people and the testimony they had to offer really wasn't helpful at all. Danny Mandel and Ellen Aronson were on a date, right? A blind date. They went to the Mezzaluna. They say that they walked past Bundy. In fact, Ellen Aronson gave an interview to the police the day after the killings. And she told the police that she passed Bundy at 11 o'clock. But once she heard about the prosecution's theory of the case, well, what did she do? She went back to the Mezzaluna. She talked to Mandel. They got together. And they attempted to reconstruct what they did that evening. She told the police she passed at 11 o'clock. Mandel told the police they passed between 10:28 and 10:32, and he knew that because he checked his watch. But even Mandel himself didn't know whether he had passed 875 South Bundy that night or not. He didn't know. He didn't know. He didn't know until, if it ever happened, he didn't know until he and Aronson got together and started putting their notes together, trying to do, as they say, to reconstruct what happened. His time in passage at 875 South Bundy contradicts her time. They got together on this story because they got together and attempted, as they say, to reconstruct what happened. What good is this testimony to you? And if they want to say they passed at 10:28 and there were no dead bodies out there, well, fine. I don't know how they can say that. They're on a date. They're looking at each other. That pathway is pitch dark, and we know that. We know that. Because when the bodies were discovered, the police were called, and Risky said he couldn't even see any bodies up that pathway. When he first arrived and got out of his car, he had to walk all the way up the pathway and use a flashlight. The only reason anybody found the bodies was because of Cato. And not Cato the human, Cato the dog. So how much attention were they paying to that particular pathway? There are lots of pathways leading to lots of condominiums on Bundy Drive. That testimony isn't helpful to you at all, but hey, do with it whatever you like. Then they called Francesca Harmon. Remember her? She testified that at 10:20, she was driving west on Dorothy. Okay, she's driving west on Dorothy, which is just south of Bundy. She got to Bundy and she made a right-hand turn. She didn't see any bodies. Then I asked her some questions. I said, well, when you made that right-hand turn at Bundy, did your headlights hit 875 South Bundy? I mean, did they sweep across the front of the condominium? What was her answer? No. I asked her, did your lights hit the gate at 875 South Bundy? She said no. And so I asked her this, well, did you tell the defense that your lights didn't hit the gate at 875 South Bundy? And what was her response? I didn't have to. They were in the car with me. They took her out on a test drive to have her show them the route she took that night. It was clearly apparent that she could not have seen what was in front of 875 South Bundy because her lights never hit the front of the location. And they called her to testify anyway. What does that say about the defense case that you heard? Well, it says they're desperate. That's what it says. We are not wedded to a 10:15 time frame, okay? The killings very well could have happened at 10:15, but they could have happened at 10:17 also. It could have happened at 10:21. We called witnesses to the stand to testify to the point in time that they first heard the wail of that dog, of Cato. Because we know that the wail was a plaintive wail. And we know that the dog was in distress. And so we know that something was happening, something very bad was happening to the dog's master. And if the dog is first heard around 10:15, I don't know. That may mean that the defendant is hiding outside and the dog here is aware of it. It may not mean necessarily that the killing happened at that specific time. It happened sometime around 10:15. We can't give you the exact time. We can't give you the exact time to the minute. If they want to push the time to 10:30, push it to 10:30. Because any way you look at it, he's still got time to get to Bundy, because we know he's in the Bronco at 10:03. He's got time to get to Bundy to do these killings and to get back to Rockingham by 10:54 or 10:45. Their witness, Robert Heitstra, told you that on a Sunday night you could easily drive from 875 South Bundy to the defendant's house. And he knows that because Heitstra, he worked next door at the Salingers. Okay, he worked at the defendant's neighbor's house. He told you that you could drive there from 875 South Bundy with under 4 minutes on a Sunday night easy. So it doesn't make, makes us no difference. Makes us no difference at all as far as all of the timing is concerned. But they also called Denise Pilnack, the woman that wore 2 watches, and she came in here and showed you her 2 watches so that you would find her credible and believe her, because she wanted to get in on this case. Weird stuff. Weird stuff. But you, I don't know. She testified.